Welcome back to Conscientious Omnivore. My name is Pal. Wish everybody a sunny good morning. Have kind of mixed feelings about the success of the garden this year. Obviously didn't get as good of a tomato harvest as last year. Last year we had huge tomatoes coming in, and this year really the cherry tomatoes and the mid-sized ones were the ones that did really well. The big ones didn't really ripen. You can see a bunch down here as well on the ground here. We still managed to eat a lot of tomatoes. I just didn't have enough to be like canning and putting away stuff like I did in previous years. Hey everybody, welcome back to Conscientious Omnivore. My name is Pal. Just wanted to do a video today that I've been kind of thinking a lot about. It's actually years in the making. I kind of started filming this I think in 2019, but I don't remember exactly when. But anyway, I'll overlay some video on the screen. I was having pretty good harvest that year, but not everything was working out the way I had wanted. Like the corn didn't do too well, and there were a few other problems. But anyway, the main thing that I want to talk about is this idea of self-sufficiency and self-reliance and what these things mean to me. I've been kind of promising I will do a video on this for a while now. So when I think of the word self-sufficiency, I think for some people it kind of means different things. For me, it's kind of this unrealistic goal that you can never really fully achieve. I mean, like, you can't really do every single thing for yourself. I don't think humans are really good at being alone. I think people need the kind of support from their friends and family and society at large, kind of as a whole. And I think there is this kind of romanticized notion that we can be the Robinson Crusoe or the the shipwrecked guy who can like rebuild everything and do everything on our own. And to some extent, I think if you're willing to deal with very primitive kind of things, I think you can. So I think if you're living in a tropical place where you don't need much in the way of like food storage for the winter or heat, things like that, if you can make do with very minimal kind of shelter and food is abundant year-round, then I think you can probably be self-sufficient somewhat easier. I think again there's something to be said for the psychological impacts of being alone. I think that might be something to deal with, but just as far as like your actual needs go, sure, that might be possible. But I think in the sense that many people are living today with the modern comforts that we've kind of all become accustomed to, I think it's very difficult to achieve true self-sufficiency. And I'm going to link an article that I found pretty interesting on this topic. You guys can check it out in the description below. It basically talks a little bit about the psychology of it and kind of even goes into the details of this idea of like, how do you even go out and even if you know how to do all this stuff, like, where did you get the knowledge? You got it from like the society, so you weren't alone. We have knowledge now that is the result of generations of people, scientists, research, et cetera, all this knowledge being passed on. And I think it's kind of it's kind of a fool's game to think that you can take all of that stuff from like generations and generations of learning and then somehow acquire it, and then you can go off and be self-sufficient. It's like, would you really have been able to do that stuff without the prior kind of help from all those previous people? So I think it's a very interesting article. Definitely check it out. But why do I bring this up? The reason I bring it up is because when I first got into gardening and the idea of gardening, I was really inspired by Masanobu Fukuoka and people like him who kind of advocated this do-nothing style of farming and returning to nature. And like then I found out about the Back to Eden method, Paul Gauci and James Prigione's channel, and all this like deep mulch kind of stuff. As you can see, the mulch bed behind me, which is getting kind of overgrown again. It needs to be weeded again. It's a never-ending process. So I got into all this kind of stuff, and I thought I had this romanticized idea that someday I'll have the food forest as well, and then I can be like self-sufficient. And when I was a kid, I grew up reading a lot, and I had been a big fan of like the Robinson Crusoe book that I mentioned, The Mysterious Island by Jules Verne. and a few other things like that, where there was always kind of this emphasis on getting things done by yourself, and these people were put into extreme situations, and then they kind of handled it and rebuilt kind of like all this kind of cool technology and stuff. It's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to become an engineer at some point. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The idea was, though, that you set up this food forest and then you become like self-sufficient. And I think now that I've been kind of trying to do it for a little while, and with some success, but mostly still a lot of learning. And by learning, I mean making mistakes and then realizing like, oh, that's not how you do that. This is how you should have done that. And there's so many skills that you have to acquire and kind of practice and get under your belt to really be able to do some of these things that sometimes it can feel daunting. So you have this fear of starting. There's like a lot of projects that like I'm always a little bit hesitant to start at the beginning, because I'm thinking like, oh, I don't know if I'll be able to do that. And then I have to remind myself, okay, well, you didn't know how to do the last project either, but that one, you made it through. So give it a shot, and then, don't give up. Like I talked about in one of the previous videos not too long ago, that, don't give up so easy before you've tried. But, recently my sister is thinking about starting a garden here in Hungary as well. And, we were talking to her with my brother and telling her all this kind of stuff of like, oh, you should do this, you should do that, and whatever. And she just felt overwhelmed. And then we kind of both backed off and realized like, okay, we're giving her too much stuff. It feels like, drinking from the fire hose, as they say. So we said, look, just start really small, start simple, do a couple of raised beds, just plant some bushes. That's it. Like you don't have to go crazy. I think she's going to do a couple trees and that's it. You really don't need to go from like 0 to 100 like instantaneously. You don't even ever have to go to 100. And this is, I think, kind of the main point of the video, is that you don't have to be self-sufficient. We're not self-sufficient by any means, like not even close. And even in the best years that we've had like really good tomato harvests, or chili peppers or whatever, I'll again overlay some stuff on the screen, so hopefully you guys are seeing some of the harvests that we had. Even some of the best fruit harvests we've had, we still bought stuff at the store that year. We still would go and get jams. We would still go and get tomatoes like in the fall, like we'd be out. So do I hope to get better than what we've had? Yeah, I do. And that's also why right from the beginning of the channel I've been telling you guys about, food preservation and canning and drying and all these kinds of things that you can do, freezing. And I still think those things are really important. And that brings me to the other kind of phrase, which is self-reliance. I think self-reliance is a really great thing to strive for. I think in a lot of things, not just food production, but just being able to fix stuff, be able to build things for yourself, be able to kind of do things without the, the huge input required from like an external source. But like I said, the same kind of thing goes. Like, I'm not going to go mine like iron ore somewhere and learn how to smelt it and like build some part to like fix something in my car if it breaks. Like I'm not naive to think that like I can have power from solar panels that I bought from somewhere that somebody made. Like even if you had all the knowledge to build all these things yourself from like the raw materials, like, I mean, come on. Like, how long is that going to take you? What is that going to, what kind of impact is that going to have on you? And what kind of other things is it going to prevent you from being able to do? So I think there's nothing wrong with like being a part of society, having help from other people, and having, basically like a give and take with our neighbors, our friends, etc. I think this is a really important topic. I think like a lot of times you see these channels on YouTube and elsewhere where, blogs and stuff where people are just preaching this idea of like being self-sufficient and like, oh, I'm off the grid and whatever. And it's like, I think there's a lot of benefits to these kinds of things. I think from a standpoint of like redundancy and being self-reliant and not just instantaneously go running for help, like when something goes wrong, being able to fix things yourself. These are all really awesome things. But I think, again, this idea that like I went and spent like tens of thousands of dollars on a solar panel system and then water filtering and this, that, and the other, and built it all up, and now I'm off grid and now I'm self-sufficient. well, I think that might be a little bit of a stretch of the truth. So that's kind of what, I wanted to talk about. And kind of a bonus part to this video, I also want to just say this idea of like, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. I think that's the expression, or perfect is the enemy of good, depending on which, versions I've seen quoted. But basically the idea is that, don't be afraid to start. Don't be afraid to get something wrong. And don't be afraid to do something that's good enough and leave it there. Just stop, stop when it's good. You don't have to make it perfect. You'll never get to perfect anyway. And a lot of times good is plenty good enough. Like, you just don't need more. There's the diminishing returns. A lot of times people talk about the 80-10 to 80-20 rule, or the other kinds of things. The same idea. And I think that's really important to kind of bear that in mind, that like, sometimes you just get it to be good enough and just move on, and you can do the next thing. You'll get a lot more stuff done. You can always come back and like, chisel and polish and make things better. But same thing with the garden, like, don't expect that like from year one, you're going to just have this amazing, like huge success and bountiful harvest and everything. Like, I don't have that expectation. I look at these things as they're going to take years. I have trees that I've planted, that, like, they're just bearing fruit now. Like, I planted them years ago. There's stuff that like failed. There's stuff that died. I'm okay with that, and I've spent a lot of effort, spreading the raspberries around. We're going to have, like, at some point, lots of raspberries. It's going to take a while. We're not going to be self-sufficient in raspberries probably for another couple of years, but at some point we probably will have enough that we won't be buying any in the store. As it is, we probably buy very few already, but this is the kind of idea. Like, I'm doing the potatoes this year. That's something that I'm really excited about. But again, I'm not like going into it thinking like from day one or from the next year or whatever that I'm never going to buy potatoes again at the store. Is it a cool goal to have for the future? Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. It depends. I got to learn also about how to store them for the winter. Like, can I actually get enough that it will last me through till the next growing season? I don't know. I have to like think about it and see what I can do in the basement that we have here. But we have an earthen floor basement in the little house here, in the tiny house, which is pretty cool. So I'm gonna experiment with trying to store some of the potatoes that we will hopefully be harvesting later this year. But again, these are just ideas that I want to talk about. If this topic is interesting to you, let me know. Leave it in the comments what you think of these terms. What do you think self-sufficiency means? What does self-reliance mean? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know. And also, if you have any tips for people who are just starting out, like some of the people who watch this channel are far more experienced gardeners than I am. And I really appreciate your input. I've learned so much from comments and from also, other people's channels that, I feel like a lot of times I'm showing you guys stuff and I'm very open about it. What I don't really know or what I'm doing as an experiment, I tell you, because I don't want you to think I'm, some guru. I don't have the answers. I'm just trying to learn it all myself now. And, I hope that someday, like, our own kids will learn this stuff as well, and they will continue and expand the knowledge that they're given as well. So that's all I'm trying to do as well. So anyway, I think I've rambled on long enough. Hope everybody's good. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up, and see you in another video soon.